What's up everybody, this is Boywithafishtank, and today I wanted to show you guys how to make a DIY CO2 system, which is a lot better for a nano tank like this one I have right here. Pressurized CO2 systems are a lot more expensive, and usually it pays off more to just buy a really big pressurized CO2 tank and use that for a really big tank, because that is going to last for very long. But for nano tanks, it's not really the most optimal way to get CO2 into your aquarium. You can actually do it in a much easier and a lot cheaper way. So I'm going to show you guys today what I've done and found out what worked and stuff like that. I've only recently made it work because I've had a lot of problems with my diffuser. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, on how to fix your diffuser, etc. But what I really wanted to focus on today is this thing right here. This is the CO2 generator. This is actually really simple. As you can see right here, let me just move some of this stuff right here so that I can get it out here in the front. You can see here, this is just a normal bottle. Some people use soda bottles. What I have to say though is that soda bottles are a lot more messy. Like this thing right here is a lot more clean. It's easier to clean. It has a bigger surface area. It's generally much better. It doesn't look as ugly either. It might actually look like a CO2 tank. Right now the pressure is not completely optimized because I've only had this on right here for an hour, because I've just fixed it. I've had it running for almost a week now, and it still works. It's going to last for a couple of weeks, and because it's very low, you can already see here the pressure is beginning to come up. You can see the coming CO2 bubbles up right here. It produces about a bubble per second, which is actually quite a lot. The only things you need is, first of all, you need to find out in your area if you have hard or soft water. You can go read that at your local water reservoir, whatever, and you can see however the water is in your area. If it's hard water, you only need sugar, yeast, and warm water. That's pretty much all you need. Of course you need the the CO2 tubing. The thing I did with this bottle was that I drilled a hole in the top right here, attached this thing right here where you actually can attach the CO2 tube pretty decently, and it's going to deliver a pressurized, a very pressurized CO2 line down here, which is going to go into my diffuser. You might realize I do not have the ceramic ring right now, which is why it's only just one bubble coming up every now and again. But that's because I'm fixing my my ceramic ring, which is also what I'm going to tell you about later. So stay tuned for that, guys. It's going to come here in a couple of minutes. But for people that have very soft water in their area, you actually need baking soda, because that is going to help you with the yeast process, the yeast CO2 process. So we all know when yeast eats something, they're going to produce CO2, and that is exactly what we're going to do right here. Now I want to say one thing. If you can get you can sometimes get like these, especially in Denmark. This is pretty much the only things we have here. I know a lot of American people that have set up this system by dry yeast. One thing, dry yeast is not as effective. If you can get fresh yeast that comes in these blocks, the ones you use for baking, etc., that is going to be a lot more effective. It's going to be a lot more effective. It's going to produce a lot more. One thing to also make sure about is the yeast to sugar ratio, because the more sugar and the less yeast, the more or the longer it will last. But the more yeast compared to sugar, the more or the quicker it's going to produce. But you can see here, there's a shrimp baby right there. Just wanted to show you guys that. Look at that. Look at that little guy down there. That's so cool. You can see my plants already spreading runners all the way from the back over to here. It's amazing. I haven't had CO2 running in this tank for a couple of weeks now, actually, because my pressurized CO2 system, which is not good for nano tanks, by the way, ran out of CO2 really quickly. So I'm trying this yeast thing, which should work really, really well, which it has shown to give some nice results already. But yeah, so what I did right here is that this is probably close to 1 liter. This is a 1 liter bottle. Some people use 2 liter. You know, it doesn't really matter. I use 1 liter. It's going to last for a couple of weeks with this method. So what I do is that I add like a quarter of a teaspoon of fresh yeast, not dry yeast, fresh yeast. I put it down in warm water and add 2 cups of sugar. That is it. Like, it's so cheap. Like, it's like here in Denmark, that's not even like a quarter of $1. So it's crazy. You know, it's really, really cheap. You know, this like 1 CO2 cylinder right here, that costs about $15, if not 20, which is quite a lot. I actually think it's $20 now. It's kind of crazy. So like, it's with this bottle I've set up right here, it's a lot more easy to clean. You know, whenever it runs out of CO2, you can just, you know, take it out and just wash it through. That's really all you have to do. Also, one thing I would like to make sure you guys understand is that this CO2 system is of course going to run 24/7, and when it produces 1 bubble per second, it's going to be quite a lot. So you have to turn it all off at night. And how do you do that? Well, there are 2 options here. You can be a little bit more smart and make a sort of valve. You can just turn on so that the CO2 will just go into the atmosphere instead of into your tank at night, because we all know plants only do respiration at night. They do not do photosynthesis, so they do not use the CO2, so the CO2 will just rise and rise and rise, which is going to lead to, you know, your pH is going to sink and fall really, really high, or really, really fast, sorry for that. So a thing you can do is either just unplug it. You know, you can just take the CO2 tubing, just plug it off, and it'll just blow it out into the atmosphere, simple as that. Or you can have a valve so that you can like make another pathway for the air to come through, so that it goes out into the atmosphere. That's the only things you really can do. And also, if you close this, like if you have a closed CO2 generator like this, it's going to explode. And I'm serious about this because I had this closed for a little while, where the diffuser was completely covered with algae, so that the bubbles could not come through the ceramic ring. And what this leads to is basically that the pressure inside this thing right here is going to be crazy. This bottle was like out here, it was super wide, it was looking like it was going to explode. So I just unplugged it, you know, the CO2 just ran out into the atmosphere. That's really all I did. But be careful with that because it can explode. I've heard of some people who have actually experienced that, so do not try doing that. But generally it's a really safe way to do it. You know, it's easy to do, it's very cheap to do, and it works great. Some people have an extra bottle on the side with a little bit of water, where the tubing goes down into the goes down in there, so that if any alcohol, which is also going to be produced, or if any you know, any of this liquid right here is going to go up into the tubing and down into your tank, obviously that is not going to be good, like especially alcohol. But for this one right here, the tubing I have is really, really long, so whenever anything is going to collect inside this tubing, I'm going to notice, you know, I can just put it out simply, and I've not had any problems with it yet. And it's basically the way I set it up. So, by the way, one thing I want to talk to you guys about is the ceramic rings. You can see this is a ceramic ring right here. It's basically like it's basically like a calcium sort of little thingy. Right now it's in the blue blue thing right here, the blue ring around it, to put it into the diffuser. I'm going to attach it in a moment. But I wanted to talk about how you can clean algae off of these things, because these things are porous, and what happens is that algae can actually grow inside the small holes of this rock, which is why just scrubbing it is not going to solve anything. So what I want to talk to you guys about is how you clean this. And we need the use of chemicals now, guys, because there's like 3 different things you can do, actually 4 different things. The first is chlorine, which is exactly what I've done. Chlorine, you know, chlorine kills everything. Chlorine usually has a pH of 13. The one I had, or the chlorine I had a pH of 13, so it's a really strong base, and it's going to, you know, just kill everything in its path pretty much. So what I did is just add, you know, a little bit of chlorine into some water, have half, like a little cup, and then half water, half chlorine. I just popped this thing in there, and after 3 hours it was completely clean. Like, this thing was all green to start with, so it was all clean. It cleans all the holes and things like that. And you know, obviously whenever you put chlorine into a porous you know, rock or anything like that, it's going to smell like chlorine, and the reason for that is because chlorine is going to be stuck inside the rock. Now what you can do is just soak it in some water for a couple of hours, maybe even a day or 2. You can also put the chlorinator down in some water and just put this thing down there, and that should be fixed within about an hour. You know, the chlorinator will remove the chlorine, and it's safe to use again, because obviously chlorine kills everything. So if you put that into your tank right away, it's going to kill everything, so be sure you don't do that. Another option, this is more of a less extreme method, because you know, chlorine will just kill everything. It's really strong. But another thing you can do, look at this pearling right here, look at that. Anyway, what you can do is also vinegar, because vinegar contains acetic acid, which is I think it's called acetic acid. You know what, I'm just going to find out, because I want to know. I can't remember what it's called in English. I know what it's called in Danish, but English, nope. Alright, let's see here. You know, because like, it must be something. I think it's acetic acid. I think it's called acetic acid. Let's see here. Alright. Let's see here. Right here. We go vinegar. Which is, this is Danish, so we'll type it in Danish. Let's see here. This thing right here. And let's see down here. Let's turn this to English, so that we can understand what the hell it's saying. Alright, here we go. Acetic acid. I knew it! Acetic acid, right here. CH3COOH. This is not as strong. Like, it's very light. You know, acetic acid is usually used in a light form because it kills things, but it does it in a very light manner. It doesn't kill things that are strong. So, you know, it's not going to do anything harmful to your ceramic ring, but it's only going to kill the algae in there. It's going to take a little bit more of time though. It's probably going to take about 2 days, and it's only if there's a little bit of algae on your ceramic ring. So like, one thing I probably will do myself is that every week I would take out the ceramic ring, I would dip it in vinegar for like a couple of hours and just clean it and put it in again, because you know, that's the only thing you really can do. Because if it's completely covered in algae, chlorine and the next thing which we are going to talk about now, bleach, is a lot more effective. Bleach also contains chlorine in some cases. You know, bleach is really strong as well. It works fine too, but remember, you have to clean the ceramic ring a lot after, you know, before you put it in to your tank, into your inhabitants. So that's really all I can say. You need a CO2 diffuser. There's no way around it. You need very fine bubbles from the ceramic ring. So a CO2 diffuser is required for this thing right here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And by the way, thank you guys for 2,000 subscribers. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for all the guys that have been, you know, been holding in with me for, you know, 2 years now, I think. So yeah, I'm really happy for that. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, learned something, and hopefully you guys are going to have success with this method right here. So yeah, see you guys in another video.